I hope everybody can see my screen as well.
Yes, Moiyyad, we can.
Okay, thank you. So just a small introduction from my side. My name is Moiyyad. I'm a Salesforce developer. I've been working at Cloud Junction Advisors and I have around 2 years of experience working on the Salesforce platform. And for today's session, we are going to be exploring how to call subflows from record triggered flows. We'll go through some slides on how and why this is important and how we can achieve this. And then we'll move on to a demo in a Salesforce org I've prepared for this presentation and see one of across while working with one of my clients, right? So, so to start off, what is
Moiyyad, Moiyyad, give me a second. I just want to share if anyone has any question during the presentation, please write in the chat box or use the QA feature. Okay. So yeah, Moiyyad, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. We'll move towards the questions at the end of my presentation. So, um, record triggered flows. So just a quick introduction about flows in general in Salesforce. They're a point and click automation tool. They're a great UI tool for uh, automating your processes, and you do not need to move towards code to perform some actions automatically. So that's what flows are in general. And record triggered flows are a kind of flow that runs when we update or create a record. So we can attach more conditions to that, but essentially it runs when we update or create a record. And record triggered flows can be divided into two major categories. One is a before save flow, also called a fast field updates flow. So this is the title inside the flow screen we get. And a before save flow, we can only update fields on the triggering record, right? So we can't perform any other action if you want to send an email, if you want to look up other objects and do some changes on the other records of other objects. We can't do that in fast fields updates, but essentially, as the name suggests, it is a much more optimized and efficient flow. So it runs really fast compared to the actions and related records flow. So this one is also known as after save flow, right? So we can perform all of the actions that I mentioned earlier, send email, uh, updating other records in an after save flow, but it is less efficient than a fast fields update flow, right? Now moving on to subflows. So subflows are basically a flow that we call from inside another flow, right? So just the basic definition of that. And a subflow is, you can create a subflow by creating either an auto launch flow no trigger or a screen flow, right? So if I go back to this screen, when we when you click on new flow, you can use this option, the auto launch flow no trigger, or a screen flow to create a subflow. So just a note on the screen flow, if we create a screen flow that we want to use as a subflow, its parent must also be a screen flow, right? But this does not apply to the auto launch flow. So the auto launch flow can be called from a record triggered flow or from Apex or any other place where we can trigger like quick actions. So we can trigger our flow, our auto launch flow that way, right? Another feature that's important for the subflow is we can create variables and we can get data from our parent flow and use that for processing. So why subflows, right? So the reasons for those are, the first is reusability. So we can take the example of methods or functions when we use Apex or any other programming language, that we can take some functionality that we are repeating again and again and we can put that in a subflow. And then that subflow can be called from the context of like that subflow can be called many times in the same flow, or we can call that subflow from many different flows, right? So it allows you to abstract your logic and gives you reusable components. The second is maintainability. So again, this is related to that idea that essentially if we want to change the functionality, we only change it inside the subflow, and wherever that subflow is referenced, the functionality would be changed in all of those parent flows as well, right? And the third, and this is what we're going to be exploring today in the use case that I'll be demoing shortly, is running the subflow in system mode, right? So record triggered flows run with users, with the triggering users sharing and object level security. So sharing settings and object level security is enforced as the running user. But in some cases, we might want to bypass that if the triggering user does not have access to certain objects or does not have access to certain records, but we want to perform those actions. So we can call a subflow inside a record triggered flow in system mode, and that will allow us to have that access. So moving on to our use case that I'm going to be presenting. So essentially what our client wanted was they had a customer community portal user. So this kind of user can only log into the Experience Cloud and they represent your customers, right? But this license does not allow us to create accounts. However, our client wanted his customers to have that ability to create account records, right? So what the workaround that we came up with was the community user would create their data, would put their data on a record of a custom object, right? So the partner custom object is a custom object, and what our system mode flow would do is take data from this custom object and create an account for us, right? So when that community user did not have access to create an account, but this is what we using our flow, right? So what our flow looks like is essentially we have a record triggered flow, and that's going to run when a partner record is created or updated, right? So this one, when this is created or updated, we will run our flow and we will create our account record from there. So uh, this flow gets triggered when a partner is created. We have some decisions. We have some decisions inside the starting criteria, and we have created a decision uh, element as well. And after that, we are running our subflow, and this flow is running in system mode. So the limitation with record triggered flows is we cannot run this in system mode. This runs with the sharing and security rules enforced, but our subflow can run in system mode. So this is what our subflow would do, is that it essentially would run in system context. It would get the partner record ID as an input, and it would get that record. It would take data that's stored on this record. For example, we're collecting the name, we're collecting the ID and a few other data points, and it would create an account using this data. I'll show you how to change this to system context in my demo, right? And just before I move towards the demo, it is important to keep in mind that Salesforce has enforced security for a reason. We might need to work around that for some use cases like what I'm showing you here. So I'm just showing you what's possible, but uh, uh, the best practice is to keep security considerations in mind when working with flows, right? So right now what I'll do is I'll move towards my demo. So I've opened my Salesforce org right here, and I'll open my flows as well, right? So this is an account record, and under related we can see the partner custom object that we've created. And I'll move on to the flows, and then I'll show you how they are actually working, right? So this is our flow that runs when a partner is created or updated, and we have some entry criteria that the name must not be empty. We're collecting social security number as our ID, and that must not be empty. And we're collecting the client name as well. So I think it's we've moved some of the fields around, so it's essentially just the name. So it's an or condition, right? And we're running this as an after save flow, so we can perform the multiple actions that we talked about earlier. So we want to update data on several different records, on an account record which is different from partner, right? So that, and we want to call a subflow, so that's only possible in an after save. So we have another decision here. It's essentially checking if we have certain types of data, right? So would we be creating a person account or a business account? These are just record types on the account level. And so we're just checking if we have, if it's an individual or if it's a corporate type, right? And then we're calling the subflow. We're passing only one variable to the subflow, which is the record ID of the partner record that we are triggering our flow on, right? So we're passing it here. I'll move on to my uh, I'll move on to my record trigger, my subflow. Sorry, my subflow next. So this is what my subflow looks like. So the first thing I'll show you, we've passed our record ID to this subflow, right? So this is uh, partner's record ID. The way we've done this in our subflow is we've created a new resource for, I'll just scroll. It would be here in variables, right? So this is a text variable, and we've marked it as available for input. So this is how this particular variable is visible to use wherever this auto launch flow would be placed, right? So when I've placed this auto launch flow here, the equity partner record ID, it shows up as an input variable. I'll just go back here. So the first thing is we're taking this record ID and we're getting the partner record uh, using this record ID. So we equity partner record ID and we're getting the partner object. What we could have done is we could have passed the entire record as well. So we could have made variable of type record and pass the entire record. But for now, what we've done is we've just uh, got the record ID here, and uh, we've used the get action to get records. The next thing is I'm getting my system admin user. So the reason for that is for the account I'll be creating, I need to assign the owner, right? So I'm just getting, so its profile is system admin, it's active, and it's my email. So here I'm just getting the system admin user. Here I'm checking whether it's an individual or a corporation. So on our partner custom object, we have a field called as type. So equity partner type. And if it's individual, I'm going to be performing a different set of actions. If it's corporation, it's a different set of actions. Actually, it's the same set of actions, but we're setting the record type separately for both of these, right? So if it's an individual, I'll get the person account record type. And if it's a corporation, I'll get the business account record type. And over here, I'm doing some matching. So in Salesforce, we know it's not a good idea to have multiple accounts of the same name. So it's essentially duplicate accounts, right? So this is our measure of reducing duplication. So if we have another business account, so if the record type ID matches and the name matches as well, then we won't create a new account. Rather, we would just update the original account, right? So, but however, if we do find it, we would just, like I said, we would just update it. So if it's not found, we will be creating a business account. So I'll just open this. So we are creating an account and we are setting the status, we're setting name, owner ID, record type, and we're assigning, so over here, we will be assigning the owner that we have uh, uh, received from, up here, right? So the system admin user that we uh, got, we would be assigning that here. The same actions are being repeated for person account, but essentially we'll be assigning the different record type that uh, gotten here. And I'll just go down. And in the end, we're going to update the equity partner record. So the partner record, in the end, we're just going to add the newly created account to this, uh, a lookup to this partner record. So if I go back to my ERD diagram, you can see that uh, both of our over here. So you can see both of the accounts are linked by this junction object, right? So we'll update the partner object in the end, so it has a lookup to both of these accounts. Um, right, right. So now I'll move on to demoing how this actually works. So I've created an account record here, and you can see partner, and I've already added two partners here. I'll add a third one. So let's just call this. So for example, if it's a corporate partner, I'll just call this Bank of Canada maybe, and it's going to be a corporate partner. And ownership percentage, I'll give this an identification number. Uh, Actually, our identification number is the same as social security, so we don't need that for corporate partners. We need this for individuals. So if for example I do individuals, I do need the identification number. If it's corporate, I don't need it. And this partner name, this will be populated using our flow after I save this record. So I'll go ahead and save this. Right. Bank of Canada has been created as a partner. Uh, I'll show this in Salesforce as well. So this is our Salesforce. This is our account in Salesforce. I'll just refresh this. Right, we have Bank of, and this is the partner. And over here, you can see that this lookup, so account lookup has been populated. So we did not create this account. This account was essentially created using the flow. So this is what our flow is actually, is how our flow is actually. It has assigned the correct record type as well, and this record was created in this manner. So this wraps up my demo. We'll be moving towards questions. I'll just stop my presentation here, and if any of the attendees here have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat, and we can have a look at that. If you have any confusions over my presentation, you can ask those questions as well.
Thank you, Moiyyad. Thank you for that insightful session. We really appreciate your expertise and valuable insights on the Salesforce flows. It was truly enlightening to learn about your use case, your specific use case, and the solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have 10 minutes for the QA session. If someone have any question, please write in the chat box. Yeah. Okay. So Moiyyad, Danish has a question. Can you read it?
Yeah. So,
Oh,
any tips for large data volume? For example, we're importing thousands of records or millions. So, Danish, I think this question is related to um, data loader instead of Salesforce flows. But essentially, I think you do have, I believe it's when we import records to data loader, we have a batch size of 200, right? So we can import, like if we can import a large volume of data and it's imported in batches of 200 records each. There might be an upper limit on the total number of records you can import during in a single import. I don't exactly remember. So Ali is asking, can we call a subflow inside another subflow? Um, I actually am not sure. We can actually see that if that's possible. So I'll share my screen here and we'll try this out, right? So so on partner upsert. So if I do,
I think we can call a subflow from another subflow.
okay, so select elements. It's I'll just I think I have to I'll just refresh this. Select I think it is possible. I'm yes, so that this is what I was looking for. So we can actually launch another subflow from inside our subflow.
Yeah. I hope it answered your question, Ali bin Tariq.
So Danish is again asking, bulkify data in flow and how it works. Any tips to improve flow for larger data set? So the basic principles apply, Danish. So for example, inside a flow, we have loops, right? So you do not want to call update or create DML inside loops. And same goes for socle as well. So if you're using a flow, that's one consideration to remember. Another consideration is the same considerations we have for socle apply to get inside flows, right? So we'll get to data in batches of 200, and that's a case. So Fahim is asking, is there any limitation for subflows? Um, I don't think, Fahim, there's a limitation since each subflow is a um, is an independent entity, right? So you create a new subflow, it will appear inside your flows as a new flow on its own. So you can either use that independently, or you can use that, you can call that in another flow. So that's not a limitation per se. Would there be a limitation when we actually run the flow? So um, I'd actually need to search about that. I'm not sure if when we actually start running the flows, how deep we can go in terms of, for example, an example of this would be recursion, right? So similar to functions will be recursion, we'll be calling one flow inside another, but you cannot call uh, a flow, like a flow again and again. You cannot do you cannot not call the same subflow inside that same flow. So that's a limitation, right? So Usman Shehzad, why we need to create a subflow in a flow? So going back to the points I presented earlier, um, subflows can allow you to have that reusability, right? So you have some logic, and flows obviously take time to write, right? So you create that logic once inside your subflow, and you call that multiple times in the same flow, or you can call that across many flows, right? So that's why we'd be creating a subflow primarily. And so other use cases include one that I've presented today, so system mode. And you can think of other ways, or other, there are many other places where a subflow might be helpful. So for example, in some places we have quite huge flows being created, right? So, and it depends on the use case. But maintainability is a factor. So if your flow is becoming too large, you might need to think about moving some of your logic into a subflow to make sure it's readable, it's maintainable. uh, yeah. So Usman is saying, what are the limitations of subflows? So uh, so obviously they don't have a triggering point on their own. This would be part of your design, right? So subflows on their own would not run. um, Another thing that I presented earlier was screen flows. So if you're making a subflow that is a screen flow, its parent must also be a screen flow, right? Um, the other auto launch flow with no trigger, that can be run from our record triggered flows. Hope that answers your question.
So yeah, thank you everyone. Uh, does anyone have any question? More questions? So thank you all for your active participation and engagement throughout the event. So I hope you found today's session informative and inspiring. So yeah, I just want to share. We have an upcoming event next weekend on Saturday at 3 p.m. Usman Ali will be presenting Salesforce files. He's a technical architect at Dubai Holdings. Yeah. So please do RSVP and mark your calendars and join us in the next session also. Once again, a big thanks to our esteemed speaker, Moiyyad. Thank you, Moiyyad, for sharing your valuable insights, and of course, yeah, thank you to all of you, fantastic audience, for joining us today. So yeah, we look forward to connecting with you again in our future events. Until then, take care and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Yeah, recording is available, and I will upload this recording to my YouTube channel, like user group Karachi, Pakistan, the name of the YouTube channel. I also share the link on the Salesforce community, WhatsApp Salesforce community. Okay, so you can access it from there. Usman Fiza. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I'm sharing the YouTube link here also. Give me a second. So this is the YouTube link of the user group channel. Also, I will upload this recording to the LinkedIn page. You can also find it there. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.